The kind poor girl who saved an injured CEO man thought the danger was over. But the moment his past returned, she became his greatest weakness. Emily gave him life when he was dying. And Daniel protected her when the world turned against them. But now, the people who failed to kill him had found something far more dangerous than power. Her. And this time, they were not coming for the CEO. They were coming for the girl he could not lose. But how did they find her? Who was still watching them? And when Daniel is forced to choose between his empire and her life, what will he sacrifice? Morning light filled the penthouse, bright and calm, but the silence inside it felt too perfect to be real. Emily stood by the wide glass window, her arms folded lightly, her eyes fixed on the city below. Everything looked small from up here. Controlled. Distant. Safe. But she did not feel safe. Behind her, Daniel watched quietly. "You have been standing there for 10 minutes, he said. She did not turn. "I am just trying to understand something." "What?" he asked. Emily exhaled slowly. How everything changed so fast. A brief silence followed. Then she added, "A few weeks ago, I was counting coins, deciding between food and medicine." She finally turned. "Now I am here." Daniel stepped closer, his expression calm but focused. "You are here because you made a choice," he said. Emily gave a faint smile. "I made a choice to help someone. I did not choose this life." That answer lingered. Not rejection, but distance. The untouched luxury around her. The way she never sat comfortably on expensive furniture. The way she still folded her clothes neatly instead of using the wardrobe. She was present, but not settled. Daniel noticed everything. He always did. "You can leave anytime," he said quietly. Emily looked at him immediately. "Is that what you want?" The question caught him off guard. Not because of the words, but because of what was behind them. "No," he said. Simple. Direct. A pause. Then softer. "I want you to stay." Something shifted between them. Subtle. But real. Emily looked away briefly, her gaze returning to the city. "Wanting something does not mean it is right," she said. That line stayed in the air longer than expected. Emily had learned early that attachment often came with loss. Every place she stayed too long became temporary. Every connection eventually broke. So she stopped expecting permanence. She survived by living before things could leave her. Behind her, Daniel's expression changed slightly. Not visible, but deeper. Because for the first time, he was not thinking like a CEO. He was thinking like a man who could lose someone. A soft knock interrupted the moment. Both of them turned. Thomas entered, his posture controlled, but his face carried something else. Urgency. Daniel noticed instantly. "What is it?" he asked. Thomas closed the door behind him. "We have a problem." Emily's body stilled slightly. The air shifted. Daniel's tone dropped. "What kind of problem?" Thomas hesitated for half a second. Just enough to confirm. This was serious. "They are active again," he said. Silence. Emily frowned slightly. "Who?" Daniel did not look at her. "They." That one word carried everything, the black SUV. The men at the door. The gunshots. The chase. It was not over. Thomas continued. "We intercepted movement this morning. Same pattern. Same coordination." Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. They recovered faster than expected. Emily stepped closer. "I thought you said it was handled." The black SUV. The men at the door. The gunshots. The chase. It was not over. Thomas continued. "We intercepted movement this morning. Same pattern. Same coordination." Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. They recovered faster than expected. Emily stepped closer. I thought you said it was handled. Daniel looked at her now. It was, for that moment. A pause. Then. This is something else. Emily's expression shifted. Not fear. Understanding. Something bigger, she asked. Thomas answered this time. Yes. The room grew quieter. Heavier. Daniel moved toward the table, his mind already calculating details. Thomas exhaled slightly. They are not just watching the company anymore. A brief pause. Then. They are watching your personal movements. That line changed everything. Daniel's gaze sharpened. How far? Thomas looked at Emily. Then back at Daniel. Close enough. Silence. Emily felt it before she fully understood it. A shift. A connection. Wait, she said slowly. Both men looked at her. What do you mean, close? She asked. Thomas did not answer immediately. Daniel did. It means, he said quietly. They are not just looking for me anymore. A pause. They are looking for anything connected to me. Emily's breath slowed slightly. Then. Me, she asked. Silence confirmed it. Daniel stepped closer immediately. This is not your fault. But Emily shook her head slightly. If I did not stop that night, you would have let me die, he cut in. She held his gaze. No answer. Because she could not lie. Daniel's voice softened. You made the right choice. A pause. Then deeper. And I would make the same one again. That settled something between them. But not everything. Because now, the danger had changed. It was no longer about a CEO being haunted. It was about the girl who saved him. Becoming the reason he could lose everything. Outside, far below the glass windows. A black car slowed briefly. Then continued. Unnoticed. The silence in the penthouse no longer felt calm. It felt watched. Emily stood still, her arms no longer folded, her fingers slightly tense at her sides. You mean, they know about me? She asked. Thomas did not answer immediately. That hesitation was enough. Daniel stepped forward, his voice firm. They should not. Thomas met his gaze. But they do. A quiet tension settled in the room. Not loud. Not chaotic. But controlled and dangerous. How? Daniel asked. Thomas walked toward the table and placed a tablet down. Early this morning, one of our external surveillance feeds picked up something unusual. He tapped the screen. Repeat pattern. Same vehicle type used during the first incident. Emily's eyes narrowed slightly. The black SUV, she asked. Thomas nodded once. The same slow movement. The same distance. The same patience. This was not random observation. It was deliberate tracking. They were not watching the company, Thomas continued. They were watching this building. That shifted everything. Emily's voice dropped. Since when? Thomas exhaled lightly. Long enough to confirm a pattern. Daniel's expression darkened. They waited, he said. Yes, Thomas replied. They were not looking for you. A pause. They were looking for who you would expose. The meaning landed instantly. Emily took a small step back. So, I exposed myself. No, Daniel said immediately. You helped me. But that is the same thing, she replied. That truth sat heavily between them. Her repeated movements. The pharmacy visit. The return to the apartment. All small actions. But together, they created a trace. Thomas spoke again. They followed the chain. Emily frowned. What chain? The night of the accident, he said. You were the only variable. Silence. Daniel turned sharply. This should have been wiped. It was, Thomas replied. But someone rebuilt it. That meant something worse. Someone with access. Someone with intelligence. They were watching this building. That shifted everything. Emily's voice dropped. Since when? Thomas exhaled lightly. Long enough to confirm a pattern. Daniel's expression darkened. They waited, he said. Yes, Thomas replied. They were not looking for you. They were looking for who you would expose. The meaning landed instantly. Emily took a small step back. So, I exposed myself. No, Daniel said immediately. You helped me. But that is the same thing, she replied. That truth sat heavily between them. Her movements that night, the pharmacy visit, returning to the apartment, small actions, but together they created a trace. Thomas spoke again. They followed the chain. Emily frowned. What chain? The night of the accident, he said. You were the only variable. Silence. Daniel turned sharply. This should have been wiped. It was, Thomas replied. But someone rebuilt it. That meant something worse. Someone with access. Someone with intelligence. Someone close enough to undo what was already secured. Daniel's voice dropped lower. Mark is not working alone. Thomas shook his head. No. This is more precise. Emily looked between them. Then who is it? Neither of them answered, because they did not know, and that made it more dangerous. A sudden vibration broke the silence. Thomas checked his phone, his expression changing instantly. Daniel noticed. What is it? Thomas turned the screen toward him. A photo. Emily's breath caught. It was her, standing outside the pharmacy days ago, taken from a distance without her knowledge. Below the image, a message read, "Kindness has consequences." Silence fell again. Emily's hand tightened slowly. Daniel's entire posture shifted, not fear, something colder. They are not guessing anymore, Thomas said quietly. Daniel looked at the screen, then at Emily. They are targeting you. The truth changed everything. This was no longer a distant threat. It was personal. And for the first time, Emily was not just part of the story, she was the target. If they were watching her then, how close were they now? The room stayed quiet, but the silence was no longer neutral. It carried weight now. Emily stared at the image on the screen, her face still but her thoughts racing. They have been watching me, she said slowly. It was not fear in her voice. It was realization. Daniel stepped closer, his tone firm. They were trying to reach me. Emily shook her head slightly. No. They already reached you. A brief pause followed, then she added, now they are using me. That truth landed harder than anything else. Daniel's jaw tightened. I will not let that happen. Emily looked at him, her expression calm but distant. You cannot control everything. That line cut deeper than expected, not because it challenged him, but because it was true. For the first time in a long time, Daniel had no immediate solution. Thomas remained silent, observing. He had seen Daniel handle threats, eliminate risks, dominate situations, but this was different. This was personal. Emily turned away from the screen and walked toward the window again, her movement slower now. All my life, I stayed invisible, she said quietly. No one noticed me. No one cared where I was or what I did. She paused, her reflection faintly visible in the glass. Now suddenly, I matter. The irony was not lost on her. As a child, Emily learned that being unseen was safer. Moving quietly, speaking less, living before attachments formed. It protected her from disappointment. From rejection. From loss. But now, that invisibility was gone. Daniel moved closer but kept a slight distance. You matter because you chose to help, he said. Emily turned slightly. And that is exactly why I am in danger. Her voice remained steady, but something beneath it shifted. Not regret. Awareness. Daniel's tone softened. If you regret it, I do not, she said immediately. No hesitation. That answer settled something deep inside him. Emily continued, quieter now. I just did not know kindness could cost this much. A heavy silence followed. Thomas finally spoke. They are not just testing you, he said. They are testing him. Emily looked at him. What do you mean? Thomas's gaze shifted briefly to Daniel. They want to see how far he will go for you. The implication was clear. This was not just surveillance. It was strategy. Daniel exhaled slowly, his mind connecting the pattern. They are not attacking yet, he said. They are studying. Emily's eyes narrowed slightly. Then why send the photo? Daniel answered without hesitation. To change our behavior. A pause. Then, more quietly, and it worked. Emily understood immediately. The tension. The fear. The shift in control. They were already reacting. Already adjusting. Which meant, whoever was behind this, was ahead. Emily stepped back from the window. Then we stop reacting, she said. Daniel looked at her, surprised. We think ahead instead. Thomas watched her more carefully now. The way she processed. The way she adapted. It was not normal. Not for someone outside this world. Emily met Daniel's gaze. You said they are watching, right? Daniel nodded once. Then let them watch something they do not expect. That line hung in the air. Not fear. Not panic. Strategy. And in that moment, something shifted again. Because the kind poor girl who once only survived quietly, was now stepping into the game. The room remained still, but something had changed. It was no longer just about reacting. Now, it was about understanding. Daniel walked slowly toward the table, his eyes fixed on the image of Emily. This is not random, he said. His voice was calm, but controlled tension sat beneath it. Thomas nodded slightly. It never was. Emily crossed her arms lightly, her gaze steady. Then someone planned all of this, from the beginning. Daniel did not respond immediately. He tapped the screen once, zooming slightly into the image. Look at the angle, he said. This is not street-level surveillance. Thomas stepped closer. Elevated position, he added. Possibly across the street. Controlled distance. Emily frowned slightly. So they were not just following me, they were positioned. Yes, Daniel replied. Which means this was not improvised. A quiet realization settled in. This had been arranged. Carefully. Deliberately, the delayed phone call that pulled the attackers away that night. The precision of the chase. The clean escape window. None of it was rushed. None of it was accidental. Daniel straightened slightly, ignoring the faint pull of his healed injury. Mark could not plan this alone, he said. Thomas agreed. He does not have this level of patience. Emily looked between them. Then who does? Daniel's gaze darkened slightly. Someone who does not need immediate results. A pause. Then, more quietly, someone who plays long games. That distinction mattered. Mark was aggressive. Direct. But this was controlled. Calculated. Invisible. Thomas reached into his folder and pulled out a thin file. There is something else, he said. Daniel's eyes shifted. What? Thomas placed the file on the table and opened it. Financial movement. Subtle, but consistent. Emily stepped closer, though she did not fully understand what she was looking at. Numbers. Transactions. Patterns. What does that mean? She asked. Daniel scanned it quickly. Then stopped. His expression changed. Not surprise. Recognition. A heavy silence followed. Emily looked at Daniel. You know this. Daniel exhaled quietly. I have seen this pattern before. Years ago, during a major expansion deal, Daniel noticed a similar structure, hidden financial channels that did not lead anywhere obvious. At the time, it disappeared before he could trace it. He assumed it was a competitor testing boundaries. He was wrong. Back in the present, his voice lowered. I did not dig deep enough back then. Thomas added, whoever this is, has been in the background for a long time. Not sudden. Not reactive. Embedded. Watching. Waiting. Emily's expression shifted slightly. So this did not start with the accident, she said. Daniel looked at her. No, a pause. Then, clearly, the accident was just the moment they acted. That truth changed everything again. This was not a reaction to something recent. This was the result of something that had been building. Slowly. Quietly. Over time. Emily took a small step back, absorbing it. Then this is bigger than you, she said. Daniel held her gaze. Yes. A brief silence followed. Then Thomas spoke again. And now, they have moved to phase 2. Emily frowned slightly. Which is? Daniel answered before Thomas could. Pressure. He looked at the image again. And you are the point of pressure. The room felt heavier. Because now it was clear, this was not just about removing Daniel. It was about breaking him. And the easiest way to do that was through. If someone had been watching Daniel for years, why did they choose now to strike, and what were they planning next? The air in the room felt heavier, like something unseen had already crossed the line between watching and acting. Emily stood still, her eyes no longer on the screen but unfocused, processing everything. So I am not just part of this, she said quietly. I am the plan. Daniel stepped closer immediately. No. You are not their plan. A brief pause. Then his voice hardened. You are their leverage. That word landed differently. Not accidental. Not passive. Deliberate. Emily exhaled slowly, her mind settling into something clearer. Then they are not going to attack directly, she said. They are going to wait. Thomas nodded once. Yes. They will apply pressure first. Emily looked at him. To force a reaction. To control one, Thomas replied. Silence followed. His expression changed, not shock, not fear, something colder. Controlled anger. What is it? Emily asked. Daniel did not answer immediately. Instead, he turned the screen toward her. Another image. This time, closer. Much closer. Emily's breath caught. It was taken outside the building. Recently. Very recently. The angle was lower. Closer to eye level. Not distant anymore. Watching her turned into proximity. Below the image, a new message appeared. You moved faster than we expected. A pause. Then another line. But not fast enough. The silence that followed was heavier than before. Emily's fingers tightened slightly at her side. They are getting closer, she said. Daniel's voice dropped. They are already close. Thomas stepped forward, his tone sharper now. Security needs to be increased immediately. Do it, Daniel said without hesitation. Thomas moved quickly, already issuing instructions through his device. Emily remained where she stood, but something had shifted inside her. The uncertainty was fading. Replaced by clarity. They want me to panic, she said. Daniel looked at her. Yes. She shook her head slightly. Then I will not. That response caught both men off guard. Not because it was bold. But because it was calm. Controlled. Intentional. All access points are secured. No one gets in without clearance. Daniel nodded once, but his attention remained on Emily. "You are not," he said firmly. This time, his tone left no room for argument. But Emily did not look away. "And if staying here is exactly what they expect?" she asked. The question shifted the room again. Because it was not fear speaking. It was strategy. Daniel's expression tightened slightly. For the first time, she was not just being protected. She was thinking like him. And that made everything more complicated. If staying safe meant walking into their plan, then what was the right move, and who was already one step ahead? The tension in the room did not fade. It sharpened. Emily held Daniel's gaze, her expression calm but unyielding. "You are asking me to stay here," she said. "But what if this place is exactly where they want me?" Daniel's voice remained firm. "This is the safest place you can be." Emily shook her head slightly. Safe does not mean invisible. That line lingered. Because it was true. Daniel took a step closer, his tone lowering. "This is not about being invisible. It is about being protected." Emily's eyes did not soften. Protected or controlled? The question hit harder than anything else. A brief silence followed. Thomas looked away slightly, recognizing what this moment had become. This was no longer just strategy. It was personal. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Do not twist this," he said. Emily did not raise her voice. "I am not twisting anything. I am asking you to see it clearly." She stepped slightly to the side, creating space between them. "You are making decisions for me." Daniel responded immediately. "Because this is bigger than you." Emily's expression shifted, not anger, but something deeper. "That is exactly the problem," she said. "Everything becomes bigger than the person living inside it." That line slowed him. Because it carried truth he could not dismiss. Emily had spent her life watching people lose control over their own choices. Situations deciding for them. Power overriding them. She had survived by holding on to the only thing she owned, her decisions. Now, that was being taken away again. Daniel ran a hand briefly through his hair, a rare sign of restraint breaking. "You do not understand what they are capable of," he said. Emily met his gaze. "Then help me understand. Do not lock me away." That shifted the tone. From resistance, to demand for truth. Daniel hesitated for a fraction of a second. Not because he did not know, but because saying it would make it real. Thomas stepped in quietly. "They are not just trying to hurt you," he said. Emily looked at him. "Then what?" Thomas's voice lowered. "They are trying to force him to choose." Silence fell again. Emily turned slowly back to Daniel. "Choose what?" Daniel answered this time, his voice steady but heavy. "Between protecting you and protecting everything else." That was the real conflict. Not safety. Not escape. Sacrifice. Emily absorbed it, her expression tightening slightly. "And if it comes to that," she asked. Daniel did not hesitate. "It will not." But his tone did not carry certainty. And she heard it. Emily stepped closer now, her voice softer but clearer. "You cannot promise that." He held her gaze. "I can try." A brief silence followed. Then Emily spoke again. "And what if trying is not enough?" That question stayed in the air longer than expected. Because neither of them had an answer. Thomas watched carefully, recognizing the shift. The threat outside was growing, but the pressure inside was beginning to crack something deeper. Control. Trust. Attachment. Daniel finally spoke, quieter now. "I am not losing you." Emily's eyes softened slightly, but not fully. "Then do not treat me like something you already lost," she replied. That line changed everything. Because it exposed the truth beneath his actions. Fear. Not of the enemy, but of losing her. If protecting her meant controlling her, how long before she chose to walk away on her own? The silence after her last words did not settle. It stretched, thin and fragile, like something waiting to snap. Daniel did not move, but his expression had shifted. Not anger. Not control. Something deeper. Emily stood across from him, steady, her breathing even, but her eyes carried a quiet finality. I cannot stay here like this, she said. Her voice was calm, but it carried weight. Daniel's response came immediately. You are not leaving. There was no hesitation in his tone. No room for negotiation. Emily held his gaze. You do not get to decide that. The tension sharpened instantly. Thomas remained silent, but his attention moved between them, aware that this moment mattered more than anything happening outside. Daniel stepped closer, his voice lower now. This is not about control. Emily answered without missing a beat. Then why does it feel like I am being locked in? That question cut through everything. Daniel stopped. For a brief second, he had no answer. Every decision he made was built on control, strategy, precision. But none of those rules applied to her. And that made him react differently. Emily took a slow breath, then spoke again. I did not save you just to become the reason you lose everything. The words landed heavy. Not dramatic. Not loud. But final. Daniel's jaw tightened. You are not a loss. Emily shook her head slightly. That is not how they see it. A pause. Then softer, and not how you feel. That truth stayed in the air. Because she was right. Daniel did not deny it. He could not. Emily stepped closer now, her voice steady. You said they want you to choose. Daniel's eyes locked onto hers. They will not get that chance. They already have, she replied. Silence followed. A long one. Then Emily said the words that changed everything. So I am removing the choice. Daniel's expression hardened slightly. What does that mean? Emily held his gaze. No hesitation. No fear. I am leaving. The room went still. Completely still. Thomas looked at Daniel immediately, knowing this was the moment everything could break. Daniel's voice dropped, quieter but sharper. You are not thinking clearly. Emily did not react. I am thinking clearer than I have ever been. She stepped back slightly, creating distance again. If I stay, I become their weapon. A pause. Then, if I leave, I become their uncertainty. That logic hit differently. Because it made sense. Strategic. Unexpected. Daniel took a step forward. Or you become vulnerable. Emily nodded once. Yes. That answer surprised him. Not because it was risky. But because she accepted it. She was no longer avoiding danger. She was choosing how to face it. Emily continued, quieter now. I have lived vulnerable my whole life. A brief pause. This is not new to me. That line carried more weight than anything else. Because it revealed the difference between them. Daniel had power. Protection. Resources. Emily had survival. And survivor made different choices. Daniel's voice softened, but the tension remained. And what about me? He asked. The question was not strategic. It was personal. Emily's expression shifted slightly. For the first time, something softer broke through. You will do what you always do, she said gently. You will fight. A pause. Then, almost a whisper, but you will not be fighting for me like this. That was the separation. Not distance. But responsibility. Daniel stood still, the weight of it settling in. Because for the first time, he could not stop her. If she walks away now, will he lose her before the enemy ever does? The night passed without resolution. No agreement. No compromise. Just silence stretched across distance that had not existed before. Daniel did not sleep. He remained in his office, the lights dim, his mind running through every possible outcome, every possible threat, every possible mistake. He told himself she would not leave. Not like that. Not without saying something more. But that certainty began to weaken as the hours moved. By morning, the penthouse was quiet again, but this time the silence felt wrong. Daniel stepped out into the main area, his expression controlled, but something beneath it already shifting. "Emily," he called. No answer. He walked further in, his pace steady but slightly faster now. The living room was empty. The kitchen untouched. Nothing disturbed. Too clean. Too still. His jaw tightened slightly. "Emily." Still nothing. A faint tension rose in the air. Not panic. Not yet. But close. He moved toward her room and pushed the door open. Empty. The bed was made. Nothing out of place. That was the first sign. She had not left in a rush. She had planned it. Daniel stepped back slowly, his mind adjusting. Calculating. Tracking possibilities. Then he saw it. A small piece of paper on the table near the window. He moved toward it, his steps controlled, but heavier now. He picked it up. A short note. No hesitation in the handwriting. No fear in the words. "I did not save you just to destroy you." Silence filled the space around him. Not loud. Not sudden. Just heavy. Thomas entered moments later, already sensing something was wrong. "What happened?" he asked. Daniel did not look at him immediately. He kept his eyes on the note. Then finally, "She is gone." Thomas stopped. "What do you mean gone?" Daniel handed him the note without a word. Thomas read it quickly, his expression tightening. "How did she get past security?" he asked. Daniel's gaze shifted toward the window. "She did not break through it," he said quietly. "She understood it." That answer carried more weight than expected. Because it meant she had been observing. Learning. Adapting. The questions she asked. The way she studied movement. The calm in her decisions. She had not been reacting. She had been preparing. Thomas moved quickly to his device. "I will pull all exit logs." "Do it," Daniel said, his voice low. Thomas worked fast. Seconds passed. Then, no forced exits. No alerts triggered. He looked up. She used a blind spot. Daniel nodded once, not surprised. She was watching us, the same way they were watching her. That truth settled heavily. She had stepped into the game fully. Not as a target. But as a variable. Daniel turned slightly, his expression no longer conflicted. Now it was clear. Focused. Dangerous. "Find her," he said. Thomas paused. Before them. Daniel's eyes hardened. Before anyone. Because this was no longer about protection. It was about control lost. And something deeper. Something he had not planned for. Something he could not calculate. He looked down briefly at the note again. Not regret. Not weakness. Choice. She chose to leave. And that made it harder. Because now, he was not just chasing an enemy. He was chasing her decision. If she planned her escape this carefully, was she really running away, or walking straight into something even more dangerous? The penthouse no longer felt like a place of control. It felt like a place of delay. Daniel stood still for only a moment after giving the order, his mind already moving ahead, faster than before, sharper than before. "Lock every external channel," he said. His voice was calm, but stripped of hesitation. "If they are tracking her, I want to see how." Thomas nodded immediately, already moving. "I will reroute all surveillance feeds and isolate unusual movement patterns." Daniel turned toward the screen again, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Not just unusual," he said. "Intentional." That distinction mattered. Because this was no longer about defense. It was about reading the enemy's strategy. Thomas paused briefly. You think she is being followed already? Daniel did not hesitate. If they were close enough to take that photo, they are not far now. A quiet tension filled the room again, but this time it was different. Not reactive. Focused. Directed. The man who once calculated risk now moved with something else layered beneath his logic. Urgency. Not fear of losing control, but fear of losing her. Daniel picked up his phone and dialed a number without looking. Activate secondary network, he said the moment the line connected. I want every independent contact on standby. He ended the call without waiting for a response. Thomas glanced at him. That network has not been used in years. Daniel's gaze remained fixed ahead. That is why it still works. That line carried weight. Because it revealed something deeper. Daniel had always prepared for threats beyond the visible. He just never expected to use those resources like this. Thomas stepped closer, his tone careful. You are escalating quickly. Daniel looked at him now. They already escalated. A pause. Then, I am catching up. Thomas understood immediately. This was no longer about preventing damage. It was about regaining control. Fast. He turned back to his system, pulling up multiple screens at once. I am tracking all nearby traffic cameras, he said. Facial recognition, movement patterns, exit routes. Daniel listened, but his focus remained sharper than the data. Do not just track her, he said. Track who is not supposed to be there. Thomas nodded. Unknown variables. Exactly. Because the enemy was not obvious. Not loud. Not careless. They blended in. That had been their strength from the beginning. Daniel moved toward the window again, looking out over the city, but this time not as a place of distance. As a field. A space where something was already unfolding. She thinks leaving removes the pressure, he said quietly. Thomas responded without looking up. It changes the pattern. Daniel's voice lowered. It makes her visible. That was the risk. Not just that she left, but that she stepped into a space where he could not shield her instantly. Thomas suddenly stopped typing. Wait. Daniel turned. What? Thomas pulled up a new feed. I have movement. The screen shifted. A street-level view. A figure walking. Not clear yet. Not confirmed. But close. Daniel stepped closer, his eyes locking onto the image. Zoom in, he said. The image sharpened slightly. Not perfect. But enough. Daniel's expression hardened. Not uncertainty. Recognition. That is her, he said. Thomas looked at him. She is heading toward the lower district. A pause. Then, that area is not secure. Daniel's voice dropped. No, then colder, it is exposed. And that meant something else. If she chose that direction, it was not random. It was intentional. She was not just living. She was moving somewhere. And that made this more dangerous. Because now, he was not just trying to find her. He was trying to understand her next move. If Emily chose a place that even Daniel could not control, was she running from danger or walking straight into it? The car stopped abruptly, tires scraping slightly against the rough surface as Daniel stepped out without waiting. The air in the lower district felt different, heavier, less controlled, less predictable. This was not his world of glass towers and silent security systems. This was open ground. Exposed. Thomas stepped out behind him, scanning the area quickly. We are late, he said. Daniel did not respond. His eyes were already searching, moving across every corner, every shadow, every possible entry point. She was here, he said quietly. Not a guess. A conclusion. The street was nearly empty, A few distant figures moving without attention, the buildings one, the atmosphere carrying the weight of places people passed through, but did not stay. Thomas moved forward, checking the immediate surroundings. No signs of struggle, he said. No disruption. That detail mattered. It meant one thing. She was not taken by force. Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. She came here willingly. That realization shifted everything again. Because it meant Emily was still ahead of them. Still making decisions. Still in control, at least for now. Thomas turned slightly. Why this location? Daniel did not answer immediately. His mind moved through the pattern, connecting pieces, aligning actions with intention. Because it is unpredictable, he said finally. No direct ties. No controlled surveillance. No clear exits. Thomas nodded slowly. She removed every advantage we had. A brief silence followed. Then Daniel added, quieter, and every protection. That truth settled heavily. A faint sound broke the stillness. Not loud. Subtle. Daniel's attention snapped toward it instantly. A small object rested near the edge of the pavement, partially hidden. He moved toward it, his step slow but deliberate. Thomas followed. Daniel crouched slightly and picked it up. A phone. Not hers. Disposable. Already powered off. Thomas's expression shifted. That was not here before, he said. Daniel turned it over once in his hand. Then powered it on. The screen flickered briefly. Then lit. A single message appeared. No contact name. No number. Just words. Daniel read it silently first. Then again. Slower. His expression did not change, but something behind it did. Darker. Colder. Thomas stepped closer. What does it say? Daniel handed him the phone without a word. Thomas read it. His posture stiffened instantly. The message was simple. Direct. Precise. She chose to leave you, but next time, she will not have a choice. Silence fell again, heavier than before. This was not a threat. It was a promise. Daniel took the phone back slowly, his grip tightening just slightly. His mind was no longer racing. It was clear. Focused. Decided. This was not about taking her, he said. Thomas looked at him. Then what was it? Daniel's voice dropped, steady and final. It was about proving they can. That changed everything. Because now the rules were clear. This was no longer observation. No longer pressure. This was escalation. Daniel looked ahead, his eyes dark and unwavering. They want a war, he said quietly. A pause. Then, now they have one. The air seemed to shift around him, they come replaced by something far more dangerous. Because this time, he was not reacting. He was ready. And somewhere out there, Emily was alone. Moving. Thinking. Unaware of how close the storm had come. If they could reach her once without force, what happens when they decide not to wait, and would Daniel get to her before they do?